Hi, have a seat. This is going to take a while because it always does, but I'm going to try to keep it from being lackluster. I'm going to do my best to keep it from being boring. I'm not just going to blather. Why? First off, I care about the things that I have to say. The things I have to say reflect on me as a person, do they not? But I also care about you, in my way, being the kind of abstract person that many of you are. And then there are my friends who watch this, and about them I care deeply. I'm not here to waste your time. I'm not here to waste your time. Time's a terrible thing to waste, wasting time. You'll never get it back. You never get back one day of your life. You can't get 5 minutes back. Do you know I watched this movie called Eraserhead? It was horrible. Don't ever watch it. Really. You will have not only grated against every sensibility that you ever had, I hope, but you will have also wasted that time. Were there a way I could take the movie to court and sue to get my time back, I surely would. And yet, the person that made that movie, I'm sure, thought that he was doing a worthwhile thing. I didn't find it so. Not even remotely. But, you know, he thought he did. He thought he did. He later went on and made a film of Dune that I rather liked. So, there you are. Part of that is surely my own particular taste. It wasn't a matter that he didn't try. And that may be the way with some of these videos. I mean, most of my videos I tell amusing and heartwarming stories, and that's nice. And I hope you like them. You seem to. And I sure enjoy telling them. Most of it's stuff that I lived through. And I'm sure glad that I lived through it. Well, but there are things that I'm never glad that I encounter. And one of the things that I encounter that I dislike the most how shall we put a name to it? Well, let me tell you a few examples. You go to a burger joint and you get your wrapped up burger and you take it to where you're going to eat it, the table there. Or maybe you have the misfortune to have to drive off with it. And you open the package And maybe it's not the right sandwich. Or maybe it's got all the things that would make it the right sandwich, except they're just slopped on there every which way. Maybe the lettuce looks like it was a veteran of the Peloponnesian War. Do you know, who puts together a piece of food like that? Food is a thing you're going to eat. It's going to nourish your life. It's a bloody misfortune to have to be eating fast food anyway. Better to eat at home, if you can. I do when I can. Let's say you get a box delivered to you, a package of some sort, and it looks like it's been abused by a troop of baboons. How horrible. You have to ask yourself, am I somehow the enemy of the delivery person? Or do they just hate their job, and that's all it is? Do they hate their job so much that they take it out, not on the customer, on the package being delivered to the customer? It's not even an animate object. It's certainly not a person. If they had the guts to take it out on a person, they'd have the guts to go look for another job. Let's say you buy something. You've saved money. If you're like me, you've saved up. And you probably are. You've saved up and you buy something that you've been wanting. And it's one thing to discover, or maybe it wasn't all you'd wanted. But what if you discover that the way in which it was made displayed enough carelessness to actually evidence some hostility toward the work itself being done? That's a deeply unhappy person. It's a gutless, deeply unhappy person who should look for another job. There's a difference, as an intellectual whom I respect has pointed out. There's a difference between a job, which most of us shall have, and a career, which very few of us shall have. Well, that's true. I mean, a career, that takes a lot of training. A career takes the commitment of a lifetime. And a job is the work you do for money. not all of us are called to careers. See, there's a third thing that what you do for money could be. Doesn't have to be a career. It could be a job. But let me tell you, a career is meaningless. And so is a job without some sense of vocation and some sense of pride in what you are doing. And I'll take pride in what you're doing first, because it's the lesser of the two. I like to build up. And I hope this will build you up. If you have a job, say, making widgets, and there you are at the widget factory. Your job is to assemble widgets from widget parts. And yes, it is grinding. You know, you're doing the same thing over and over and over. Well, you know, a physician has a career, does he not? Well, if he's a proctologist, he's doing the same thing over and over and over. But it's a career. And you hope that he's doing a good job. Of course you do. You've entrusted your life to him. In some sense, to the widget guy, too. Widget maker, widgeteer, perhaps. The widget maker. Say you use this widget to do your own work. It needs to work right. If it's a tool, it needs to do the job for which it was designed, within reasonable parameters. If it's a part, it needs to fit, and it needs to be durable. The materials for its assembly need to be appropriate to its use. And then its fabrication has to make it as exacting as it is required to be. I can imagine reading a paper entitled Microtolerance in Widgets. Maybe one of you will write that paper. Put all the fun in the footnotes. I say it's pride in what you are doing. But let me tell you what it really is. It's love for your neighbor. It's love for the person who's going to use the tool you're making. It's love for the person whom you encounter in the course of your career. The world falls apart without that. Things don't work without that. Things fall apart without love of neighbor. And I'm not talking about some warm, fuzzy feeling. Although that would be nice, wouldn't it? No, I'm talking about acting out of concern, wanting the best for your neighbor. You can't love God without loving your neighbor. And one of these days, maybe I'll explain to you why you can't love your neighbor without loving God. Not really. But for now, we'll leave that alone. That's pride in workmanship. It is. The best sort of pride in workmanship. It's the pride in workmanship that's not disappointed when you find someone who does it better. But you can take pride in workmanship in any sort of work that you do. But there is a work to which you are suited. It's a work that is right for you because you're right for it. That fit has to be mutual. And you need to find it. And it's not going to be, Archduke of Austria for very many of us. For most of us, it's going to be something small. Well, the world is made up of small parts. That's the important stuff. It's the little bits that are the important things. And it's what calls for the love of neighbor. Yes. Expressed in pride and workmanship. Yes. But it also means that you're going to be in the right place at the right time to say a word or do a deed that will have an effect that you cannot guess. You won't know it when you've said it. It may not be for the ears of the person to whom you said the word. It might be for the person 2 people down who has overheard it. They might not hear you correctly, but it was what they needed to hear. Maybe the deed was done in a way that they misinterpret. But it was the interpretation they needed. And could anyone else have done it in such a way as to be misinterpreted at that particular point in time? And the answer is likely not. The thing that you are doing, the word that you are saying, those are the needed things. Well, you ought to pay some heed to them. Do your best. Do your best. That changes your job, no matter what it is. Whether it's labor or whether it's a career, it changes it to a vocation. It makes it your calling. Because ultimately, we all have one calling. Isn't it? Yes. Yes. I think it goes by a simple name. It goes by the name of love. Well, this is a really good pipe. Thanks, Ron. And it's really good tobacco. Thanks, person in Aarhus, Denmark, who is making this delicious tobacco. Thank you, farmer who grew it. Thank you. Well, it's late. Go to bed.